It is the Practical Prayer Podcast pre-show on New Thought Media Network. I am Bill over here in Pennsylvania. That's Carol over there in New Jersey. Dangerously close to each other, but still at arm's length. And we're going to record another episode of the Practical Prayer Podcast here in a couple of minutes. But in the meantime, we are inviting the folks who are listening and watching along on New Thought Media Network. Get Mr. Microphone to stop hitting me in the head there. To participate along however you would like. If you are watching live, you are more than welcome to put some comments into the chat. We will answer questions, address comments, perhaps angle ourselves to a prayer request that you come up with that's in there. And it's also possible after the fact to do that by going to the website. This one is right down here, bethelight.com, be-the-light.com. which is the home of all things practical prayer. And there's a podcast section on there with a button where you can do the same sort of thing and make a comment. And we'd be delighted to hear from you. In the meantime, we got a podcast episode. And it's Thanksgiving week. I love Thanksgiving week. Thanksgiving is the only holiday that's named after a step in practical prayer.
Yeah.
So... And it's also got all of those layers of, on the one hand, family gatherings, and on the other hand, eating too much, and on the other hand, the kickoff of the commercial holiday season as though it needs to wait. And then there's the celebration of stealing native land. So it can mean whatever you want it to mean.
Yeah, you haven't...
You just don't know what to say to that, right?
I don't. I just leave it alone.
So, I will tell you, I was talking to a friend today, actually one of my old practitioner students, who says he loves listening to the podcast because he grew up Catholic, and you keep asking questions that he would have asked, and that he's either had answered or repressed. So congratulations.
Yeah, I have a knack for that, so...
Well, I reminded him of a little of your background. He says, yeah, I can see why she's still got questions 175 episodes in.
Yeah.
So, I am grateful for that.
It takes some time to undo stuff.
Yes, yeah. And even just to remind ourselves of how simple it is.
Okay, so you're going to say more about that?
No. I mean, I have pointed out to you that if I were doing this podcast series with somebody else who was in New Thought, we would have a dozen episodes and we'd run out of stuff to talk about. Because from inside this New Thought bubble, it's like everything is kind of self-contained. But having you here to bring in other perspectives, like they keep on diving into that belief in duality of God outside of us, asking for favors instead of claiming our truth, and all the rest of the things, they all weave together and give us plenty of topics.
Yeah, all into out there, because as you were talking about it, I was thinking about how I navigate through this, and It to me, it's a natural thing for me because I just integrate stuff always. I just weave, and I did that. That's just what I do. But it's not easy, I don't think. But I think I find it easier because that's what I do.
Right.
But I'll leave it at that. That's what I do.
Okay,
I know what I'm trying to say, but the words are getting away from me right now. I just think that it's not always that easy.
No, people who've been watching this for a while know what you're talking about, even if you're not putting it into words the way that you want to for right now.
Yeah. Okay.
But the topic today is wealth, prosperity, and abundance, which are not synonyms. And let's dive into the episode. And if the tree guys don't show up, then by the time we finish the recording, then there will be no interruptions. And if there is, then we'll figure it out along the way. So Here we go.
A practical prayer is a prayer that works.
These discussions between Reverend Bill Marchiony and Carol Lawrence dive into the details of how it works and how to work it.
Reverend Bill is a New Thought minister and the author of Practical Prayer for Real Results.
Your new life begins with a new thought.
Carol Lawrence is on a spiritual quest, finding the New Thought teaching after decades on the pulpit in 3 different traditional denominations.
I've got some questions.
Together, they're exploring the philosophy and activities that come together from many of the world's religions to create the practical spirituality that is New Thought.
Welcome to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony.
We have another wonderful, wonderful conversation teed up here. And it was one of those things that, as we've discussed, are obvious to me. And it's then when you bring it up, it's obvious that it's not obvious to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah. And your question is about wealth, prosperity, and abundance.
Yeah, the difference. And you mentioned, I think, in the introduction or while you were talking, they are not synonymous.
Right. People
but
sometimes
they're
think that,
used-
yes,
Yeah.
people treat them as though they're synonyms.
And the reason I'm bringing it to the podcast right now, rather than to just, okay, I'll check it out on Google or whatever. If it's not clear, it could very well be the reason why you're not getting what you want, because you're asking for the wrong thing unaware.
There you go. There you go. So the 3 terms are wealth, prosperity, and abundance. And there are lots of times where I'll be working with somebody and they want me to pray for abundance. And I will sit patiently while they talk about what it is that they want. And then I will gently point out that they do not want me to pray for abundance. And the reason is that abundance is an aspect of the infinite. It's like praying for God to be God, praying for the divine to be divine. It is completely, it's built in, and it's redundant, and it's irrelevant. This is an infinitely abundant nature, a universe. Its nature is abundance. Okay? There's one divine creative power. Go back to the creation story. I love that one. And we'll use the Big Bang, because the scientists think it took longer. So we can describe the same thing that happened when the infinite said, let there be light. So there's this one singularity, possibly dense, and it starts exploding. And over time, that exploding mass of energy starts forming itself into matter. And then the matter starts forming itself into different sorts of matter. And all of the elements in the periodic table get formed through a series of nuclear and chemical reactions, until finally we have all of the different particles that exist now, which then form together to make stars and planets and stuff, and then evolution happens and it turns into life, and that turns into people, and that turns into 401k plans and homeowners associations. The infinite said, let there be HOAs. So, and everything that exists is that one expressed in a different form. All the energy, all the matter that exists anywhere in the universe has been there since the beginning of time. We can, as the scientists have pointed out, we can change energy into matter and matter into energy, but we can't get rid of either of them. We can just change it. So all of that energy is now showing up as matter, is showing up as energy, is showing up as everything in the world around us. That's infinite abundance. Okay, it means that there's no limit to it. It's like that's huge and keeps on going and going and going. Praying for abundance in that light is absurd. The nature of the universe is abundance. The thought that the infinite creative power that created everything doesn't have enough material to make another planet. Oh, I wish I could do one more star, one more galaxy, but I just don't have. No, it's not the way it works. Supernovas and celestial collisions and all the rest of that keeps going on, and new matter, new stars get born out of the process. Abundance is not an issue. So we can't pray for abundance. It's like praying for there to be the outer space. It's like he's going to be there whether you pray or not.
Well, can we? I'm thinking about this before I ask because this could send us off to the side. And I want
Oh,
to get to the
no,
rest
we
of-
wouldn't want to get distracted.
Okay. So, okay. So, can we pray for whatever from the abundance? So to speak.
Absolutely. Oh, you teed that one up beautifully. So abundance is an aspect of the infinite. That's a characteristic of the divine. That's God itself. God is abundant. So we're not going to pray for abundance, but I have an experience of how much of that abundance is available to me, and that shows up as wealth and prosperity. So
Say that again. Say it again.
how it shows up in my experience. It's an infinitely abundant universe, and there might be an experience that I'm having where I don't have quite enough of whatever it is that I would prefer to have. You know, as we close in on the first of the month, is there enough in my bank account to cover the mortgage? As I am looking at the at the holiday table with the family coming over, is there going to be enough to feed everybody? So it's an infinitely abundant universe. It's just possible that the turkey or the whatever the other ingredients are still in the supply chain. They're down at the store rather than at my house. So I do not have that experience of enoughness right now, of prosperity. There's plenty in the universe, but it's not here at this particular time. And I wish that there was more in my bank account right now because the credit cards are due, and it's the same thing in all the areas of our life. Prosperity is the experience, the personal experience of that abundance. So if I have something that's missing in my life, I can pray for that. I can pray for prosperity in that area, for the enoughness for myself. And it doesn't change the inherent nature of the universe. And the way that I like to describe it is this is not a supply issue, this is a distribution issue.
I get it. Okay.
So that's the difference between abundance and prosperity. And when people use them interchangeably, you can just shake your head and go, no, one of those matters and one of those you're never going to change.
Okay. So, okay. I get it. So it's all right. So then I am praying. I understand clearly what I asked you, praying from the abundance. But when there's a discrepancy in the prosperity that shows up or that is present in your life, then the problem isn't with the abundance, nor necessarily what is there, but there's something in between, perhaps, are you saying, that prohibits the flow of the abundance into your life?
The experience of there being a disconnect between the amount of resource that would be comfortable in my life and the amount that's actually available right now in my life. I'm sure that you've had the experience, and the term used to be house poor. Somebody goes and gets a fabulous house and they need to decorate it, but they don't have enough money to quite get it the way that they want it to be. And oh, by the way, we're spending all of our time and all of our money and all of our attention on fixing up the house, and now we never go to the ball game. Because there's just not enough money to go out and buy a ticket or even the time to do that. So the experience that we're having is we've made a choice in one direction, so we've got that prosperity in one area, but that's taken it away in a different area. So that feeling of prosperity is having enough to have the comfortable house and have the stuff that we like, and also the latitude and the freedom to be able to go to the theater or to invite friends over for a meal, or go out to a restaurant and take a vacation, or do something in addition to the things that we are already doing. That initial decision to go and buy the house is a commitment of how we're going to allocate resources, and then what happens after that is, oh, well, now there's a rebalancing that gets to happen. And that's the experience that we have of prosperity. And I'm sure you know lots of people who were house poor at some point in the past, and then they got over it, and now either the house is paid for, or they've gotten additional income, or something's happened, so they're comfortably in the house and they go on vacation. Same house.
So the prayer actually is kind of set, the stage for it is set with the decision that it was made in the beginning,
Yeah.
to kind of, this is a crazy question. Okay, so,
Go for it. I love crazy questions.
so you should, I mean, forget the word should, but should, in terms of budgeting, you make the decision, what is this house going to require, right? Am I
Right.
going to be house poor with this house? But I really, really want it, so I'll get it because I can. And then
Yeah.
I'll pray myself out of house poor. Or pray that I will get more. Speak on that.
We never know what's going to happen next. I mean, there were a bunch of people who, before the housing bubble burst in 2008, got themselves a very nice, comfortable house. And there was every reason to believe that they would do just fine in that house, and they would grow into it, and they would be able to sell it at a profit and move into a different house, and the market would continue going up, and everybody was going to be happy, and there's prosperity for all. And then that didn't happen. And there were a bunch of people who were saddled with houses that suddenly were not worth what they paid for them. And they were spending all of their income to stay in a house that was never going to get paid off. And it all turned upside down, and it was a huge loss of prosperity. P.S. Observation on abundance, the houses are still there. They just belong to other people now.
Yeah. So then it's up to us to be intelligent about our choices.
Absolutely.
Okay.
To be pragmatic and practical and intentional about our choices. And we don't need to figure it out all on our own because, see back to part number 1 about abundance, the infinite nature of the universe. All the intelligence that exists anywhere is the divine intelligence expressed individually. So if there's something for me to know, I can open up and invite the infinite to make a suggestion to me. And you've had the experience that somebody offers you a job and it's got all the right specifications. You say, this should be perfect for me. And something says, don't do it. Don't
Right.
do it. Don't do it. And then one of two things happens. You tell the still small voice to shut up and you take the job and it's awful. Or you say, I'm not doing this now. And suddenly a fabulous offer shows up almost instantaneously that's 10 times as good as you could have imagined. And you're not already committed to something else. We've all had that experience. Also second guessing ourselves, well, I don't think that this could possibly be right for me. This seems like it's all good, but I'm figuring it out now, so I can have exactly the same thing but work from home. And we say no, and 6 months later we're still looking for a job. Allowing the infinite to make the suggestion and then listening to it and following the guidance can be huge.
And I'm an advocate of, just be slow. Take your time. It's very hard. It's very difficult when you want something. And maybe all around you, you see it happening for other people. It doesn't even have to be happening for a whole lot of other people. You just see it like a couple of times and I can do this. And I think, and I'm going to say it just the way that I'm able to say it, the only way I know to say it, to me, the universe works in order. It doesn't do crazy. I mean, there's magical moments, I think, surely.
It's not capricious. It's not like it like entices you into one thing and then it pulls the rug out from under you. It's
Yeah.
pretty consistent.
It's pretty consistent. So I think about doing, let's say this. I have big dreams. I don't know how to get there, and I know that it's going to require this, this, and this. Beyond which I can figure out how to do myself or get myself or whatever. And so I sit and I say, okay, I know this idea is divine. I start with that because, I'm asking, I do this automatically, so I'm trying to take it step by step. So is this a divine idea? And I wait for the intuition and all of that business to come. Then if it is and I can't see the way, I just assume that this is God's idea. My job is to get prepared for it and watch. Then that's when I say watch the magic happen.
Right.
But that takes a bit. I really don't expect people to bite on that. Even, in making the transition as the other person that wrote to you talked about making the transition from one side of the street to the other. That transition is a lot because you have to understand what you're letting go of and what you're replacing it with and being okay with that. So, and then building your faith, I guess, around that. That's why I said this hard work. It doesn't just, you think it's easy.
I don't think it's easy. I think it's simple. It is definitely not easy.
And I don't even know what does like simple mean. There's only 10 steps or it's 3 steps instead of 10. I don't know. What does that mean?
Let's take a break and we'll come and talk about what we mean by simple. And I thought wealth, prosperity, and abundance was going to be enough. Wow. Are you ready to get results? Now, that's not a rhetorical question. Are you ready to get results? RUR2GR. That's actually the abbreviation for the steps in a practical prayer. Recognition, unification, realization, gratitude, and release, with a couple of extra steps in there in case some doubt creeps in along the way. RUR2GR. This class is about the prayer technique that's common to all of the spiritual practices and religions in the most effective prayers that they have. And by effective, I mean that the prayer works. It actually creates a change in the experience of the person doing the prayer. It gets a result. We're going to begin with theory, and then we're going to take it into practice. By the end of the class, you will have your very own practical prayer that will help create transformation in your life.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony. Now listen, we got to make sure we stay on this prosperity abundance, even though I might have shifted us out for a minute.
Okay.
Because, all right, go ahead.
You reestablish the conversation, and I will head in the direction you want to go in.
Okay. All right. So I can't do that. I was following I was following the pattern that we were, the road that we were going in. We'll get back. Go ahead.
We're talking about wealth, prosperity, and abundance. And what we've identified is that abundance is an aspect of the infinite. That's just the nature of the universe. We can't pray for abundance any more than we can pray for there to be a sun in the sky. There's going to be a sun. It's like we're not in control of that. And it's never going to go away. Prosperity is our personal experience of enoughness in whatever aspect of that abundance we're looking for. And we've been talking about that in terms of finances. Enough money to pay the rent, enough resource to be able to go on vacation, enough to go around and balance the books. Prosperity actually applies to all the areas of our lives. Part of it is financial. Another part of it is about health. You get somebody who's got tons and tons of money, but they're ill and on the verge of dying. They don't care about the money anymore. Yeah, it buys them good doctors, but the reason that they want to buy the doctors and hire the doctors is so they can get the health back. Mm-hmm. So, and that has to do with wellness or illness. It has to do with our physical comfort and our ability to move around. You start, walking through the park and everything is going great. It's a beautiful, gorgeous day and it's wonderful and the people are great and you get a pebble in your shoe. None of that is on your mind other than the pebble.
Right.
So prosperity is about being in the flow and having the supply of whatever it is around us. It's the same thing with love. Somebody's got tons and tons of money, but no friends and no romance and they're not feeling any love in their life. The money becomes much, much less consequential. That's where the phrase money can't buy happiness comes from. Make a nice down payment, okay? Keep us entertained while we're looking for the happiness or the love. The other one is the creativity, the way that we share our gifts with the world. If we're sitting there feeling backed up and stymied and not able to do anything valuable, then having all the money winds up being pretty empty. And we can do empty things with the money. Yes, it is much more entertaining to feel empty with a lot of money than to feel empty without any money. Mm-hmm. But the answer is not money. The experience, one of the exercises that I do in class is I say, who wants to be rich? And everybody's hand goes up. Mm-hmm. And I say, who wants to be happy? And everybody's hand goes up. I said, if you could be rich or happy, which would you choose? And of course, being a New Thought, they say, why do I have to choose? I can have it all. And I said, for this exercise, you have to choose. And they all choose happiness. Because if you can be happy without money, or you can be rich without being happy, I mean, who'd buy unhappiness?
Right. Right.
So that's where the prosperity comes in. The prosperity is having enough of whatever it is that's going to be uplifting and fulfilling us.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to spend some time on that. I mean, not necessarily in this podcast, but in making that a part of the understanding of this journey, to take your time and understand what you're asking for. The prosperity isn't just one thing, but what flavor of prosperity are you looking for right now?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean, I don't think it negates anything else, but you use the word enoughness. And I think that's really a sobering idea or a sobering thought. What is enoughness? Like, what do I need right now to make me feel okay? And it doesn't mean that more won't come. It doesn't mean that. To me, it doesn't mean that. If you want $1 million, is it okay that it comes 250,000 at a time?
Yeah.
It's enoughness, and that gives us time for gratitude, on the journey. As we have enough, we are grateful for enough, and then there's always going to be enough.
Right.
Yeah.
And it brings in notions of balance as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there's somebody who's living in an apartment where they're paying $1,000 a month rent, and it's fine, and they've got well more than enough of an income to support that, and they got some money put in the bank, and so they get themselves a house with a mortgage that's $5,000 a month, and suddenly it's them and their house and their income and their savings, and the balance has shifted. Because, it's a nicer house, but now there's something else that needs attention, which is the income or the other expenses or something different. And you can't point to any of that and say it's bad.
Right.
It's all good in its own way, in balance. There are people who have annual incomes and annual expenses that are far lower than mine. And there are people who have annual income and expenses that are way, way higher than mine. And the important part is not how much the annual budget is, but it's about having the expenses and the available resource be in balance, because otherwise we feel the imbalance, and that's what attracts our attention.
It's like, it's practical living. As I said that, I had a flashback of something a phrase that I used that did not get me very much favor, but I had just...
Let me hear it.
I used to get myself in trouble a lot, but I read this book by Watchman who can be very leaning toward fundamentals in a way sometimes, but he was freer than I had been. So I read into this book, and I'm reading, and I liked it because I kept thinking there is practical Christian living. There's a way that life works. And if you get in the flow of, because you're not going to fix it to work your way. So figure out how it works. And it doesn't mean you can't get what you want. You just have to use this set of rules, sort of philosophy. I'll say that way. So use it that way. And so I think that practicality is one of those things that maybe has to be clearly understood, but it's right there. You don't go from enough to way over abundance into way more than enough than you'll ever need, right? Because you don't have Emmett Fox, you don't have the mental equivalent to handle it. So if you get it, you're not going to get,
Right.
You're not going to be able to keep it. So I think we grow, like we can get more as we grow. Is that fair to say?
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
And to me, the intention is the growth, so that there are certainly things I want, but I want to grow so that, one, I can recognize the way to it. It's just, it's practical.
We've all heard stories about people who won the lotto jackpot, and their lives went to hell, and within 5 years they were declaring bankruptcy and didn't have two nickels to rub together. And what happens with a lot of jackpot in many, many, many cases is that the available resource way outgrows the consciousness of the person who is in possession of it. And that there's a huge wake-up call there. There's a huge learning curve, and there's a lot of transformation that needs to happen. You know, somebody's going through their everyday life, and they got their buddies down at the bar, and they're hanging around, and everything is fine, and suddenly they've got $500 million, and then their friends know that they have $500 million, and we're going to go down to the same bar and hang out with the same people, and why don't you pick up the check? Because you got $500 million, and there's no reason not to. So I do. And then they come down to the bar, and they're there more often, and they expect me to be there all the time because now I'm the guy who's buying them the beers. And the relationship changed, and suddenly I don't have what I used to have, and it's like, now what? Do I keep on buying the affection of my former friends? Do I let them go and have to find out how do I live as a multimillionaire? It changes. Everything changes. So, and it's not like the money just fixed it all. It just changed it all.
It changes, and I'm saying, do your homework and see what's going to happen if I get this, right? So don't laugh, but you can laugh anyway. When I thought about what I wanted,
I don't know what it is yet.
first-
I'm already laughing.
When I thought about a certain change that I wanted, I said, okay, what's this going to cost me? And I'm not talking about dollars and cents. What is this going to cost me? So, number one, if I get this amount of money, I am not financially astute enough to know how to work it. So, I got to get the wealth advisor on speed dial. Because I want the universe to understand that I understand my limitations and I have planned for them and so forth. So I do everything that way. I don't know if it really makes sense, but I always think about, all right, what is this going to mean after? Let me get ready for it because I really think it's a good idea. However, sometimes in looking at what it's going to cost me, I'm thinking, nah, I don't think so. I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Well, there's a huge difference between the consciousness of getting something and the consciousness of having something.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's exactly what you're talking about. I mean, there are people who I've talked to. It's like, oh, I so much want to be in a long-term relationship. I want to have a spouse. I want to have somebody to spend my life with. And all the rest of those things. And it's a really happy-sounding story. And I say, is there room for somebody else's clothes in your dresser? Do you have room for somebody else's stuff in your living room? Is there time in your schedule to spend all of your time with somebody else? And I'm like, well, okay.
It's
You better make room, because when that wonderful person shows up, there's going to be some commitment.
well, there's going to be some commitment, but listen, you got to think about what does this mean with your mental, your headspace, your peace space. Is that important to you? You know, what about, do you need someone to agree with you? Just flat out, let's just be real. Do you have to have your way? Or, are you, I mean, that's the real, you brought this up and I started thinking about how I used to do marriage counseling. And I thought it was incredibly practical because I hated marriage counseling. People they'll say yes to anything just to get past this part so they can get to the, finish all of the stuff that the fun stuff in planning the wedding. But I got to do this because this preacher or whatever will not do the ceremony without it. Right. So I'll do this. Now, you don't have very much of their attention or commitment at that point. But the truth of the matter is when you get married or when you get into a relationship of any kind, it doesn't matter what the configuration is. It's who are you and do you have to be right? Are you willing to be wrong? Are you willing to share? Are you willing to, it's a lot. And I use that example to say that before you ask for anything, take a minute to think about what it's going to cost you. And you may want to pay, but listen, be honest. And I'll tell you, sometimes I've said, look, I'll pay because I really want it. Yeah. I paid. I'm
Yeah.
thinking, I should have left that crap alone. But but then trust your, your intuition and your gut that this is not the way. You're not going to like this because this is going to cause a disruption that is not going to make you happy.
Mm-hmm.
And you trust.
Yep.
You trust.
Yeah.
So
Let's,
I go back to my word. It takes a lot. We were supposed to talk about it doesn't take it, a lot. It's simple versus
it's simple but not easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's take a break, and when we continue, we will have a prayer on the consciousness of prosperity.
Get inspiration in an instant. God calls are the gentle and uplifting moment of truth to help you remember that the bright light of God's love is shining right now as you.
It's your God Call with Reverend Bill.
Start your 2-week free trial today, and you'll get a phone call 4 times a week from Reverend Bill with an uplifting half-minute message filled with insight, wisdom, story, and fun.
Let your light shine.
You can answer the call to listen to it live or let it go to voicemail so you can hear it later. After the free trial, your subscription is just $5.95 a month. The details are at godcall.org. God calls are disruptive, intentionally.
Whenever you write something, put on a gold star.
They take you away from your routine to remind you about the truth of who you really are. They come at random times between 8:15 a.m. and 6 p.m., so you won't be expecting them. And somehow, the message is exactly what you need to hear at the time.
Magic is loose in the world.
It's a moment of motivation in the middle of your day. Find out more and start your 2-week free trial now at godcall.org.
And Carol, as I suggested to you, the people who are working on my tree are here, so I'm going to excuse myself for a moment, and you can have some one-on-one time with the audience on New Thought Media Network, and the dog and I will be back in a second. Stand.
Okay, so I have been dropped out into the middle of the pool often, not here, but often enough, and that we're cool. Okay, so the thing that Bill and I kind of go back and forth with sometimes is I think that making the transition from the traditional church theology that we may have been brought up with, be it Christian, Baptist, Pentecostal, whatever it is, Catholic, over to New Thought, I think it takes work. And Bill, a person who has always been in New Thought and where this stuff just kind of oozes from him because he's, I think you got to work, and he's thinking it's simple. And I'm thinking, okay, it might be simple, but to unravel one level of consciousness, one understanding, and then open yourself to another and receiving another, I think that's some heavy lifting. And it's good work. It's work that makes sense. However, you need to understand, in my opinion, you need to understand exactly what that means. So my mom used to say, don't take something from a baby and unless you're ready or you have something to immediately put in their hand to replace that which you took from them. And so Bill and I kind of push back sometimes. I'm saying you have to put something there, and it has to be something that they can chew on and see the difference and be comfortable with the change, because this is the word out there is deconstruction, and that's a strong, very aggressive kind of term, and I kind of back off of it sometimes, but that's what it really is. You're taking a theological perspective, understanding that you have been comfortable with all your life, and you're deconstructing and you're taking out the parts of it that have caused you religious trauma and questions of all kinds. And you're saying, okay, so what do I replace that with? And is it okay? Is God cool with this? And can I make this shift and go the rest of the way? Now, some of us get to a place where we say, look, this, what I have here is not working. I'm doing this. And we make the change, or so the change may be a little bit different. The commitment to the deconstruction process may be a little different. You may have a higher level of tolerance for the uphill parts of it. But I think that it is a good work because it's your work. It's going to make not just your life easier, but there's a sense of peace that comes when you are in agreement with what's going on in the universe. Like, you don't have somebody over your head saying, this is how it should be, but there are things that are happening that resonate and make sense to you spiritually, which allows you to relax, be open, and accept these principles of change. So when we first came on backstage, I said, I want to talk about abundance, prosperity, and wealth. And the first thing Bill said was he defined abundance. And I listened because, I, as well as other people, want to have abundance. But when he put a different lens on it and said that spirit or God is abundance, then I said, oh, okay, so I'm asking for what I need from the abundance. That makes sense to me because, if you've been, I don't know if we talked about this on the show, but backstage a lot of times I'll talk about the time I spend at the ocean as often as I can, have a favorite pier and all that. But so to me, the ocean is a sort of a picture of abundance. There is more there than I ever need. And everything that I do need is there. Now, I understand there's oceans all over the world, but where I am, I can see to the distance of a horizon, and I let that be enough. So I'm looking at if this vastness that I see is enough, then if that's infinite intelligence, if that's an image of infinite intelligence for me, then whatever I need is absolutely there, because my vision takes me out to the point of the horizon where the sky meets the ocean, and that is hugely a vastness. And so what I need is from that vastness. And I think of that as God, as the infinite supply, abundance, whatever it is, that's what I need right there. So I think that we have to find our way to understand this, which is not very easy to understand. I'm talking about people that are making the shift. So we find our way to understand that which has been difficult to understand. And so I go back to, or I reference one of my mentors that I just really love, and that's Neville Goddard, because I'm just getting ready to talk about Neville Goddard.
You want me to go back away again?
No, let me just finish this thought. Okay.
Okay.
So I was talking about the ocean abundance and all of that, I shifted the analogy, and when you redefined abundance, you redefined it for me. I said, okay, so Neville Goddard is saying, look at that horizon, that line of the horizon, which is what I shared with the audience while you were away. There is more than you can ever imagine, and you ask from that abundance and know that it's coming to you because it's there. It's there. There's no reason why it shouldn't, except for that you don't ask. So I gave the audience the analogy about how often I go to the ocean, and I can tell you I go there to study, read, blah, blah, blah. But I cannot tell you how often I'm there saying, this is what I need to know, and I know it's out there. And I watch the waves come in and say, that is it. It's coming to me. And if I don't get it right now, I'll get it in a reasonable amount of time. And then Neville Goddard talks about the bridge of incidents. And I say, okay, this is coming to me, and I need to watch for the incidents that are going to connect me with that which just came. So I know we're all glad that you're back, because I can go with this, man.
You are loving it. You're on fire.
I do. I love it because it makes sense to me. And, for anybody out there, listen, I made the transition and I wasn't scared. And I just asked God to show me the way to freedom. And I'm loving every minute of it.
Beautiful.
And the way is becoming clearer as I go.
Beautiful. Well, you've been talking, you're passionate about the ocean and Neville Goddard. The guys who are working on the trees have been showing up, and who knows what they're going to do in my yard. So let us rejoin as though we just did the break, where you say, "Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast," and then we will do a prayer.
Okay, so welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony. Bingo. There we go.
Fascinating conversation that we've been having. We're talking about wealth and prosperity and abundance. And as I promised, a prayer on the consciousness of prosperity. And we were talking about before is that there is prosperity, which is our experience of abundance. And then there is our ability to embody whatever that prosperity is that we're looking for. Do I have the room in my life for a loving relationship? Do I have the belief in my consciousness that I can be healthy or vital or move around easily? Do I have the consciousness of being a friend and having a friend? Is the good that I'm seeking something that is realistic for me? So that's the prayer today. The prayer today is that consciousness of prosperity, about making the room in our own consciousness to be experiencing that newness, that goodness, that uplift, that balance, that harmony that we're seeking. And prosperity shows up in all different areas of our lives. It's the big five, as I call them, which are health, wealth, love, work, and spirit. Health is our experience of vitality and comfort, our physical being, and embodying all of that goodness and comfort without having things that are distracting or taking away from that. Wealth is about our finances, our financial prosperity, and it's not about having a lot of money. It's about having an adequate supply so that that's not the distraction for us. The same way that if we're not healthy, that's what has our attention, and being healthy just lets us go on and do the fun stuff that we want to do anyway. Love is about the relationships that we have. Do I have the friendship? Do I have the committed romance, whatever I am seeking in my life? Do I have the consciousness of that so that I can open up and experience that? And work is not about the job that we do. It's the way that we share those unique gifts that we have, because that's the stuff that resonates. It's creativity, it's sharing, it's art, it's whatever beauty we're bringing into the world through our gifts. And sometimes it's by making a sculpture, and people call it creativity. And sometimes it's by doing a job and doing it well and bringing some uplift into the world through that. So the prayer today is the consciousness of prosperity, about being in that place of balance. And so what we get to do is turn our awareness away from the specifics and the circumstance and open to the awareness of that infinite power and presence, that one divine love that shares itself as and through and in all of its creation. Everything is that divine love expressed in its own way. Everything is that divine love expressed in an individual and particular way. That includes me. That includes everyone within the sound of my voice. We are each expressions of the infinite. We are each heir to the goodness, the richness, the prosperity, the abundance that lives everywhere in the universe. It is all available to us. And as we open ourselves to that, as we allow that consciousness to expand, this goodness could be possible for me. This could be okay for me. As we put down whatever's not serving us, as we let go of anything that might be blocking that good from showing up in our lives, as we open to it, as we engage in the process, and we take whatever steps we're guided to take to participate in that creativity. We want to grow a plant. We can't just sit and whine and want a plant. We may have to go out and set up the garden and do some weeding and dig and get muddy and be involved in a planting and a watering and a caretaking process, and then we get the plant. Do we have that consciousness? Are we doing that part which is ours? And knowing that each one of us is guided to take exactly those perfect steps to bring that newness about, to allow that good to unfold, we open to it, we participate in it, we allow it, and that infinite creative power creates it, bringing that goodness to each of us in our own way. And I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for the good that's showing up. I'm grateful for the willingness of each one to play a part. And I'm grateful to be able to speak this word of intention and release it now into that creative law that creates everything. And to know it is now creating this. This goodness is underway now. And so I let it be. And so it is.
The Practical Prayer Podcast with Reverend Bill Marchiony and Carol Lawrence is a production of BeTheLight.com.
be-the-light.com. newthoughtmedia.com.
where you can find more information about practical prayer for real results.
Our theme is by Music of Wisdom. You can learn about the spiritual community of New Thought Philadelphia with daily guided meditations,
Weekly celebrations of spirit
and Reverend Bill's classes in practical spirituality
at newthoughtphilly.org.
That is the Practical Prayer Podcast for the 25th of November with the tree guys in my yard getting ready to take out big parts of my oak tree. I got to tell you, being in the world but not of the world, that was fun. Because I'm sitting there, I'm doing a prayer, I'm being, my spiritual self, bringing my consciousness to this, and I'm like out of the corner of my eye, I'm seeing the tree crew, and they're like the beeping noise as they're backing the thing in, and they're getting ready to start up chainsaws and stuff. And it's like, there's a lot going on in my head.
That's a lot. Yeah,
There's a lot going on in my head.
Well, I want to let you know you're handling it marvelously.
Thank you.
That prayer was really good. So regardless of what was going on outside, you landed the plane.
Thank you. And I have my little Bluetooth headset, so as I was out talking to the tree crew, I was hearing what you were saying to the folks, and so I had that going on for me as well. So now I got to go back and listen to the part about Neville in the ocean. Because the folks on New Thought Media Network got something that people in podcast land are not going to get this time. So
That's funny.
thank you for making that happen. I thank everybody who's on New Thought Media Network now. Again, if you have a question or comment, you can put it into the comments here, or you can go to bethelight.com, be-the-light.com, and find the section on practical prayer and put it in over there. And happy Thanksgiving. And I guess we'll be back here next Monday.
Next Monday.
Same bad time. Thank you, Carol.
See you later.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.